Maharashtra is likely to witness the third wave of the COVID-19 infections as early as mid-August is what the Maharashtra task force is saying, adding that children would not be affected as much as those in lower middle class clusters that haven't been exposed to the virus so far. Emphasizing on the grim situation, they said that no mathematical model can accurately predict the virus. However, strict curbs and fast vaccination drives can help in preventing the wave altogether. Therefore, it becomes crucial for the state to get up preparations, apply lessons from the second wave, and start preparing for the worst. The doctors have emphasized on conducting large-scale sero surveys, which will help them determine the presence of COVID antibodies in people, and aggressive vaccination drive across the state. They further warned against crowding and flouting of health regulations and COVID-related restrictions to avoid entering the third wave earlier than expected while still coming out of the second wave. Joining us at this point on the broadcast is Padma Shri Dr. Mohsin Wali, cardiologist and physician. Dr. Ishwar Girara, infectious disease specialist and health analyst, is also joining us live. Dr. Sunil Raina, professor and head community medicine, Dr. RP Government Medical College, Tanda, Himachal Pradesh, is also joining us on the program. Dr. Wali, let me begin with you first. Is it inevitable now that a third wave will hit India? Dr. Wali, is that now to be expected that a third wave will hit not just Maharashtra but the rest of the country?
Well, thank you, Uday. This is something very serious, at the same time something like at which we should be working hard. I have been expecting that people of India especially must have got lessons from the first two experience of the first wave and second wave, and they should have realized the importance of COVID appropriate behavior, prevention, masks and vaccination. Having said so, I have another side of the story, which is part of the India which lives in villages. And in villages, how much message has trickled down, how much they have accepted the vaccination, and how much they are having facilities at their village levels. There are different size of villages in India, different facilities are there, different primary healthcare standards are there. So, summing up all that, what came from Maharashtra Task Force today and what came from WHO and AIMS, both news are if to be studied together. There is a good news, there is a very bad news. So very bad news, I will concentrate that if we do not, there is a big if in that news which has come from Maharashtra Task Force, and that if is very important, that if we do not observe COVID appropriate behavior, if we do not stay homes unless otherwise essential to go out, it is going to be a disaster, because you see, it started from, I would complete it by including the beginning of it. It started when the scientific advisor of the Prime Minister cautioned the country about the third wave and especially the third wave effect in children, which we have today discussed in detail, that children will be affected same way as adults and there is no additional risk to the children because they have some protective mechanism. This apart, you see the whole country is at the verge of infection, which has not been eradicated by now. We are still getting 60,000 cases, 60,000 plus. And for one day, the data had increased. Yesterday, the data has slightly increased. So if that is the speed of reduction, it should be sustained, number one. Number two, less deaths. Yes, we are encountering less deaths. But keeping these two values together, and the fact that corona had not gone, it has not gone. So corona is around. If we are not very meticulous about preventive aspect and we are not regularly taking vaccines, which I would see pick up after next 2 to 3 weeks, not now. So all this put together, I would say yes, this program is worth cautioning the nation and people of India that they should be very much sustained in the practice of COVID appropriate behavior, use masks and stay at homes unless otherwise necessary. No leisure shopping, no leisure entertainment outside because we have everything at home. Yes. And protect the children as well at the same time. Children are a vulnerable commodity. Whatever reports are coming through WHO, AIMS or the other agencies, you see, we have to protect our children at all cost. so that they don't suffer, because 18 plus have vaccines, less than 18 no vaccines. So we have another experts who would be delighted to know their views. My view is of caution. Caution is the best word. Caution should be exercised. And second important word is restraint, and third is precaution.
Okay.
Caution, precaution.
Dr. Ishwar Gilara, how do you react to, of course, the points that Dr. Bali just made, and Maharashtra Task Force emphasizing that this third wave could come as early as mid-August, and obviously we need to follow all protocols to prevent it coming earlier than that also. Dr. Gilara, are you in agreement?
Yeah.
With this projection?
Uday, what I would like to tell, this virus is totally unpredictable. We have seen the unpredictableness of the virus. We have seen the first wave, second wave. We have seen how much the second wave can go up. And if somebody doesn't expect a third wave, then we are in the fool's paradise. So we are expecting third wave. Now, whether that third wave will be stronger than second wave, whether it will be weaker, whether there will be another new variants, we don't know, because as I told you, virus is unpredictable. Now, whether it will come in July or August, again, that cannot be said. Only one part of that story, what says that the third wave will be double the stronger than second wave, I don't agree with that. Because as I said, it is unpredictable. But at the same time, if you look at any other country, wherever the waves happen, some countries have gone through 4 waves already. India has gone through 2 waves. But wherever third wave came, and after starting vaccination, even if partially vaccinated people, third wave was not stronger than second wave. Barring Turkey, I have seen first to 8 or 9 ranking countries with USA, Brazil, India, UK, Russia, France, Turkey. Barring Turkey, where vaccination is very poor, third wave was stronger than the first and second wave. And that happened about a month and a half before. So currently, if we look at possibility of third wave, yes, it is going to be there. Number 2, whether it will be stronger than second wave, I don't think so. Number 3, if we do proper vaccination, now also, we have enough time. But there is a shortage of vaccine. And under such a situation, we should have a different strategy. And my strategy since beginning has been that those who have already taken a breakfast, don't give them lunch now. Those who have already infection, wait for some time. Those who have even asymptomatic infection, antibody positive on a drop of blood, ask them to wait for 3 to 6 months. Vaccinate those people who have not been infected. This is the way we can come toward the herd immunity. If you look at the data which is released by AIMS and WHO yesterday, 57% of the people were infected already. 57% is not a small number. In Bhopal, they were trying to do a trial on the children for vaccine, and they found that 77% of the children were already infected with antibody test. So they cannot be part of the study. So if you look at data everywhere, all over the country, 40 to 50% people are infected. By his own admission, Niti Aayog member Dr. Paul said that currently we have 2% population infected, but actual infection could be 23 times more, that is 46%. You look at the serosurveillance data of January 2021, it says 20 to 30%. The fresh serosurveillance is on now. Once that report comes, it will show 40 to 50%. In my own clinic, from July 2020 till today, I have been doing regularly antibody tests. Currently, we are getting 60% people walking into clinic, not for COVID, they are antibody positive. So if that is the situation, we should avoid those people for vaccination because we have a shortage of vaccine. They can be given vaccine, next dose, maybe after 3 or 6 months of the infection. Because we cannot make out when they were infected because of antibody test positivity and no symptom, in that case, we should ask them to come after every 3 months and check antibody level is there or not level, only positivity in 1 drop of blood. And that is not expensive. So what they can do at the vaccination centers, they can have a counter where put a board, if you have been infected, if anybody in your family is infected, please come and do your antibody test. And they will be glad to do that and they will go back. So that is the way. And secondly, we should not waste a lot of vaccine. 5% wastage is there on an average, but there is a 10% extra doses supplied in the vaccination. So if you have that 10% plus 5%, you have 15% extra vaccine. And if you deploy doctors, currently what is happening, vaccination is available everywhere. Mandir, Masjid, Gurudwara, Samaj Hall, ground, parking lot, but not in doctor's clinic, not in nursing home. Yeah. What is this strategy? We need to look at this strategy again. And that's why this scandal like in Mumbai is happening. Anybody who is making Tom, Dick, Harry and doing vaccination.
Okay. Dr. Sunil Raina, come in here. Dr. Raina, on of course, what protocols now? I think it's becoming inevitable that a third wave will come. That's what our experts are saying. to prevent it, sir, or to at least delay it, prolong it until more people are vaccinated? What are the protocols that we must follow as citizens, and what SOPs should the government put in place immediately? Dr. Ram.
First, thanks today for having me on the show. Now, as Dr. Gilada rightly pointed out, the report is well-intentioned, primarily for the fact that it raises a flag on the possibility of a third wave. The numbers will be disputable. They have said that the numbers will double the numbers that we have seen in the second wave. That is something that can be challenged. Unfortunately, what has happened in past few months is that the academics of COVID has taken over the science of COVID, and we have largely relied on mathematical models to predict waves and how exactly the infection will behave. Let's get to the bottom of it. How does infection behave actually in the public? That will tell us what we need to do for future. There are three major players as far as infection is concerned. One is the virus itself. Second is the human beings in whose contact this virus comes with. And third is the vaccine that is at this point in time being projected as the major player to prevent this pandemic. So if you see in this community or in this country, a new variant comes, like we saw in the second wave, the Delta variant came. The Delta variant was responsible largely for the second peak. So if you see a new variant coming in the community, or if we see a new variant coming in the country, that can lead to a wave. Second is human beings. If we see that the immunity in human beings has fallen, the immunity which was achieved because of the vaccines or because of the fact that they were previously infected. So that immunity falls over a period of time. Then even the most popular virus, not necessarily a new variant, even the most popular virus can infect again and lead to a peak. And the third, the most important part, is the interplay of human beings to the virus. That's where you want to hit on. The human beings made a few mistakes in the past when we were going down in the month of February, early February, when the numbers were falling down and suddenly everything was opened up and people went about doing their activities without taking care of the protocols that were there in place at that point in time and invited getting infected. Now we know these three are the major players. So how do these three need to interact so that infection falls down or doesn't come up? First and the most important is to exercise restraint. That is something that needs to be exercised for a large period of time. Look, we are in a space where we don't know whether this infection is going to go out today, tomorrow, or a year after now. This is very unpredictable, and we have not seen something like this for the last 100 years. So we need to ensure that we continue to use restraint, continue to wear masks, particularly in closed spaces. The closed spaces are the areas wherein we need to concentrate. I have a feeling that most of the infection in second wave was not driven by open spaces. It was driven by 80% of this infection was driven by closed spaces, largely the offices. So you need to take care of offices, the closed spaces, increase the ventilation there so that less infection happens. We need to take care of schools, whether we should decide to open them now or not. For one, I'm not sure of opening them now. We should delay the opening up of schools at this point in time. So opening up schools will be the key. When do we open them? We need to be sure about what do we do with our large shopping malls and gymnasiums. That's again an area which will be an area of concern to us. We need to develop protocols for these areas so that infection is less. But again, the strategy will be to isolate the virus, geographically limited, concentrated to certain geographies only, and that will be the protocol that has to be followed for next year. If we don't do that, it can come up at any point in time again.
Large-scale sero surveys, Dr. Wali, large-scale sero surveys and an aggressive vaccination campaign, is that a good twofold strategy to prevent a third, a fourth, and a fifth wave? You're on mute, sir.
Sero surveys which we had last year were limited to a particular segment of population. They were not pan-India sero surveys. So very little results can be drawn. Vaccination, yes, but I have again just now said vaccination, where vaccination? Vaccination like we did in Maharashtra in a society like that, fake vaccination, which is further caused so much anxiety in a lot of urban lot. You see, this kind of things is a great accident for the nation. I would take it. It is criminal, and strict action and very immediate action should be taken. And the most delicate part of the story is you were just focusing on before the beginning of our discussion is what they have injected. They have to be brought to the notice. Responsibilities should be fixed. And in this scenario, what we are talking becomes very, very different. We have just had a sero survey in the pediatric population and we got very good report. Dr. Gilada told about 60% antibody positivity. We are heading towards herd immunity, but very, 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 very slowly. This is not the rate which it should be. That does not mean every one of us should get infected. But summing up together, the point which Dr. Rana made, I fully agree, and with Dr. Gilada's observation, I would keep it together that ढिलाई नहीं बरतनी है. In Hindi it is said like this, and Prime Minister has used these words. And we have to be very vigilant. You see what is happening. You see the count reach us second day, and we just see in the morning. Are they actual counts, or they are, you see, factual counts, or they are not? You see, this is very reassuring to have these numbers, but we have to see Corona is around. I will repeat this. I have told this also. Corona is around, and as you said, Zero Service provided very useful information if they have done it over a cross section of the society, including villages. I am concentrating on villages because that is a target we should now attack, vaccinate, and provide them medical services, because their things are totally different what we are discussing sitting here in our urban circle and for the urban elite or middle class. You see, things may become very dangerous, so it is good to talk about it. I'm not scaring anyone, but precaution is always better. And all these places which I was telling in general, and Dr. Rana has specified, all these crowding places we have regretted opening. I'm giving you one example, Delhi Metro. They have said Delhi Metro should be reduced to 50%. There are huge queues outside the station. This they have not attended to. The main thing which they should have done, should have been, they should have increased the number of the trips, which they have reduced instead of increasing. So how can the opening metro be beneficial? It can be counterproductive. If you are saying we will attend to the 50% of the occupancy of metro, you should double the numbers of the compartments or triple the number of compartments. There is another line outside the metro station. This was surprising. I could not understand how to attend to this. So we forget something always when we make a plan. So we should be very open to the advice coming in. We should be very positive. Whosoever is coming with a positive advice, experts like these in your panel should be incorporated in making plans, which is not probably done to the optimum. And that is how the things can run. Otherwise, we are heading for another disaster. I'm sorry.
Okay. Dr. Gilada, is that your formula as well? Because the fact is that, after a third wave, there can be the possibility of a fourth wave. Then there can be the possibility of a fifth wave. We need to try and prolong them and make their impact as less as possible.
Number one, in medical science, we believe in think of the worst and do your best. You always think of the worst. Over preparation, over projection is always better than under projection. Now, what has happened between first and second wave? There was a group of very reputed mathematical modelists, and they are called National COVID Projection Council or some Sutra model. They said that second wave is not going to come at all. And Government of India believed in them, and they kept quiet. All things were going on. Kumbh Mela was going on, electioning was going on, yatras were going on, weddings were going on. So we were quite not unaware because of our own negligence in planning. So what Dr. Raina said, this mathematical model, fine, but it has to go with the reality. Reality we doctors understand who have been on day to day. Secondly, we are doing zero surveillance. We have done 1, 2, and 3, now 4th one. What do we do after that? Do you want to just have a sadistic pleasure that our zero surveillance first time shown like this, and now second time is like this, and third time? What are the measures you are taking? You are not taking any measures. Based on zero surveillance, if you strategize that, okay, those infected people, they need not be given vaccine. Those infected people, they can join the work immediately. Those infected people, they will not be stopped at travel point. They will not be asked to do RT-PCR. Then we are in a winning situation. But we are not doing anything like that. And thirdly, we should expect that, okay, third wave will come, but just because of calculation, saying that more children will be affected. Yes, more children were affected in the second wave than first wave in number, but in percentage, they were the same number. So we make the same mistake. We call Maharashtra number 1. If you look at in percentage of per million or per lakh population, Maharashtra is number 8 in the country, even today. So there is Goa is ahead of us, Kerala is ahead of us, Pondicherry is ahead of us, Lakshadweep is ahead of us. There are 8 states ahead of us. So don't make a mistake of last state will be last state, big problem will be there in number. In percentage, it will be different. So pediatric population is not going to be worst affected in percentage. Even if they are affected or infected, they will not land up in ICU. So don't scare parents. The worst thing to happen in any pandemic is you create such a scare that people will go to such a scare and they say, okay, abhi jo hona hai, hone do. So don't want to have that kind of situation. And lastly, if the third wave has to come, even if it comes today, we are prepared. So our preparedness should be like that. It may come today, tomorrow, after 4 weeks, no problem. So don't create panic that third wave is going to come bigger. We have oxygen, we have medicines. We now know that a lot of medicines don't work. So at least we'll be wiser than the first and second wave. The prescription of 10 medicines are not required, just 2 or 3 medicines required. Paracetamol is good enough. So if we are wiser than that, why we are so scared?
Okay.
We involve doctors, involve postgraduate doctors. Doctors are not fully involved. I don't know why they are not involved.
Okay, more doctor involvement, more medical advice should be taken is what Dr. Gilada is saying, Dr. Raina. Also, government infrastructure must, health infrastructure must be created by governments already. Don't panic the citizens, but begin working. It's happening in big cities like Delhi, Mumbai, but is it happening in other parts of the country as well? Are we learning lessons from the first and second wave, Dr. Raina, to put in place more oxygen supply, building of new plants, availability of medicals, adequate medical staff in rural hospitals, adequate testing kits? Are we learning lessons from the first and second wave in smaller cities and rural India as well, Dr. Raina?
But I have a different take on this. If medicalized management of pandemics would have helped, then US would not have suffered. Most of the European countries would not have suffered. The key to fighting pandemics is development of a good quality public health infrastructure. That is the way to fight it out. If you look at vaccines are unidimensional at this point in time. Where the variants can skip vaccines, they can miss vaccines, and the infection can come. So what we need to think of is a multi-dimensional, multi-stakeholder policy banking on public health. We need to reach the innermost core of India. And how do we reach? We don't reach by creating a new health hospital there. We reach by communicating properly, telling people that this is something that can happen. We need to take care. We need to use restraint. That's the way to fight this pandemic. Infrastructure will take time. It will take 6 months, 8 months, 10 months to develop. But as I say, development of medicalized infrastructure is not going to fight pandemics. Pandemics follow complex behavior. They don't follow statistical or mathematical models. They follow complex behavior. So that's why you see geographical disparity in number of cases across the country. You don't see that very uniformly distributed. You have some geographies reporting higher cases, some geographies reporting lesser cases. That's because pandemics behave in a very complex manner. There are a lot of things that go into making of a pandemic. Travel is, for example, 1. Clustering is 2. Urban population is 3. Having large, tall buildings is 4. But these things may not be there in the rural population. So you need to reach out to the rural population, tell them that you are at a better place than the urban people, but you need to exercise caution, you need to exercise restraint, you need to go out and take care of yourself, you need to wear masks, and you don't need to take this infection lightly. So maybe building better communication at the grassroots level, not necessarily through infrastructure development at this point in time, will be the key.
Okay. Dr. Gilada, you want to respond to that?
No, nothing. I think preparedness and our organization, of which he is also part of that, Organized Medicine Academic Gig.
Interestingly, Dr. Raina, I want to quickly interrupt you there, Dr. Gilada, because Dr. Raina, you are from a hospital in Himachal, so Himachal is not, a big center like Maharashtra, like Delhi, like other bigger states. Himachal also was reeling under this pandemic. So do you believe that Himachal also has geared up, has ramped up the infrastructure? Is Himachal Pradesh prepared? And while I'm talking about Himachal, I'm not just limited to Himachal Pradesh. We don't need to do a analysis of Himachal Pradesh government today or their infrastructure particularly. But Himachal is an example of, say, Uttarakhand, of, say, many other states as well, which are not as developed as, say, Delhi and Maharashtra.
Well, that's where I was coming. Himachal has an additional advantage over other places. Himachal has a very robust public health infrastructure, primarily because of the fact that we don't have a very large-scale private infrastructure. So if you go to even the interior parts, even the tribal areas of Himachal Pradesh, you will find a public health infrastructure developed by the state government. So that's the way it has been happening there for the last 50 years. That's the policy of the state government. And that is something that has helped Himachal. If Dr. Gilada was right, if you look at the number of cases per million or per population percentage cases, Himachal was not doing well. It had huge number of cases as per its population was concerned. But we were able to manage the pandemic largely because of the fact that we had a diverse and largely public health infrastructure which was catering to even the lowest level of population. So we had the CHCs which were capable of delivering the healthcare. We had the district hospitals which were capable of delivering the healthcare at that level only. So we didn't necessarily need to shift to the urban or large centers to take care of the patients. So that's something that I always tell the states, the country will benefit if we are able to provide comprehensive health care at the grassroots level, at the CHC level. That is something that will take off the load from the tertiary care setup and prevent casualties of the scale that we saw in large urban populations in India.
Yeah, Dr. Gilada, go ahead now. You were responding.
I would like to emphasize one thing, that our organization, Organized Medicine Academic Guild, of which Dr. Raina is also part of that, we believe in global health security and we believe in epidemic preparedness. We don't want fly-by-night operators. Just because one epidemic came, some people came and thereafter they vanish. We need people who are of some material, some experience, and they will look at the entirety of the situation, not only for one issue. And secondly, all practical solutions which are to be there, they could be dynamic. What I'm telling today may be change after tomorrow, but I should change. Government should change. Authorities should change. Planners should change. They don't do that. For example, currently we are looking at the gap between two vaccines. Now, about a month or two, a month before, it was fine. Today it is not fine because there are a lot of publications which say that if there's a gap between 1 to 2 is more than a few weeks, then the other people who are not yet to get second dose of vaccine, they are at risk of getting the Delta virus or Delta plus virus. So in that kind of situation, we need to reduce the gap, and we should be scientifically based, not based on some whims of some people. So therefore, we appeal the government of India to reduce the gap of Covishield, because 90% of the vaccination is Covishield, to 4 to 6 weeks rather than what they made 12 to 16 weeks now, and which has no scientific base at all.
Okay, well, let's leave it at that. My thanks to our guests for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.